And Teresa, would you take a roll call, please?
Sure. Ms. Joyce Limburgo, Mr. Gordon Cook,
Here.
Mr. Bob Johnson,
Here.
Mr. Michael Lazio,
Here.
Ms. Lori Lemunion,
Here.
Dr. Yemi Sandolfi, here. Ms. Marcy Gray,
Here.
Ms. Noel Stepp, Ms. Rita Weesey, here. Dr. Susan Wilson, Ms. Michelle Whitehoff, here. We have four. Excuse me just for a second. Cody, is there anyone else on the line that we missed?
Hi, Teresa. It's just Lori who's online.
Okay, thank you.
So we will make a motion for the approval of the September 19th, 2023 agenda.
Approval of the agenda.
Second.
No.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Okay. Ms. Joyce Limburgo, Mr. Gordon Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Bob Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Michael Lazio,
Aye.
Ms. Lori Lemunion, Dr.
Yes.
Yemi
Aye.
Pandolfi,
Aye.
Ms. Marcy Gray,
Aye.
Ms. Noel Stepp, Ms. Rita Weesey,
Aye.
Dr. Susan Wilson, Ms. Michelle Whitehoff. Aye. Motion carries.
We skipped the
Skip the,
second one, so we'll go to
we're just gonna back up.
the pledge of allegiance.
So you join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I have a short invocation as well, and I'm going to read from John 14, verse 27, and so this speaks about peace. And in a world where there doesn't seem to be any peace, there is peace. And so I'm just going to read this. It says, "My peace I leave to you, my perfect peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, nor let them be afraid. Let my perfect peace calm you in every circumstance and give you courage and strength for every challenge." So Lord, we thank you for your word. And Lord, would you do that very thing in our gathering today? Would you give us peace in this room, peace with our meeting? And we thank you for that right now. In the Lord's name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So I will take approve the agenda, and let's look at the consent agenda. So approval of the consent agenda items. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second?
Yes.
Oh, Jill. Okay.
Ms. Joyce Limburgo, Mr. Gordon Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Bob Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Michael Lazio,
Aye.
Ms. Lori Lemunion,
Aye.
Dr. Yemi Pandolfi,
Aye.
Ms. Marcy Gray,
Aye.
Ms. Noel Stepp, Ms. Rita Weese, Dr. Susan Wilson, Ms. Michelle Whitehoff. Aye. Motion carries.
All right, the consent agenda is approved. So welcome all of our visitors. Glad to have you here. And we have some visitors' comments today. I believe at least two of you, I believe. And
So we want to keep our visitors' comments to 3 minutes each as you come up. So I believe Mr. Purdom.
Thank you. My name is Dan Purdom. I live in Liberty, Clay County, Missouri. In September of 2022, the Mid-Continent Public Library Board of Trustees approved a review of Proposition L funds spent building and upgrading libraries within our district as approved by the vote in the November election of 2016. The usual process of having the staff prepare a request for proposals for this work was rejected in December of 2022. And in February of 2023, at the request of Finance and Audit Chair, the board went forward with a no bid contract with an out-of-state firm called CFO Systems at a cost of $8,000 to rewrite the RFP. CFO Systems prepared the new RFP as contracted, and it was sent out for a response a couple of months ago. One firm, Clinton Larson Allen LLP, responded to the RFP. So after a year of hearing almost every month how critical this review was to restoring taxpayer trust, I was shocked to hear the Finance Committee Chair at the last meeting suggest that he had looked into it and that the board would need to increase compensation substantially in order to get the review done. I don't believe that's true. You have a proposal in response to your RFP from a national company that appears willing to do the review for the price offered. Perhaps a preferred vendor would want more money, but that is not the offer on the table. It was then suggested at the Finance Committee meeting that perhaps the trustees should drop the review and simply have new policy and procedures written to prevent confusion around these issues in the future. Again, it was suggested that perhaps CFO Systems of Omaha would be given another no-bid contract to assist in writing these policies and procedures. Yes, we were impressed by the massive response to the RFP they wrote. Mid-Continent Public Library recently created a new position as CFO and made an outstanding hire with Mr. Jeremy Wilmoth. Welcome. He has 15 years of government finance experience, and while I don't know his full skill set, I'm comfortable in saying with 15 years of experience, he could write needed policies and procedures in his sleep. At a time when we're seeing staffing services being curtailed across our library system due to budget cuts, why we have someone trying to create a public works program for an out-of-state vendor is just a mystery to me. If you really think taxpayers need reassurance about how the Prop L funds were spent, then approve CLA's bid. And if you choose to walk away from the $8,000 invested in having the RFP written, then just know that you have staff on salary that are more than capable of writing any new policies and procedures needed in the future. Thank you.
Is Denise Childers.
I am here.
Okay.
I actually didn't come prepared to say anything. I was just, I guess I'll follow up to the letter that I wrote. Just real quickly, I belong to an organization called American Association of University Women. It was called to our attention at a previous meeting that, sorry, I didn't know this had occurred, but we had approved funds, or the voters had approved funds through Proposition L. And then at some point, the board decided we didn't need that much money, that the library system. I just would like a further explanation so I can understand why you would go against what the voters approved. So that's my question. If anybody wants to enlighten me, that would be great.
Thank you.
No one wants to enlighten me?
Jump right on
We're not
stage.
going to.
No.
It's not allowed to because it's not on the
Okay, thank you.
agenda. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry about that.
I would like that very much, but sorry.
All right. That's all the visitors' comments that we have. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. So awards and recognitions.
All right, we have two things to talk about today. I'll start with the Reading Rocket. In July of 23, the library's Reading Rocket was presented with a 2023 Neighborhood Hero Award from the Community Services League at Blendwell Community Cafe in Independence. The award highlights the work of the community outreach organizations in Independence in honor of the cafe's fifth anniversary. Not been to Blendwell, it's a wonderful place, and I encourage you all to go. In addition to their work in Independence, the Reading Rocket visits sites throughout Clay, Platte, and Jackson counties, helping families play, learn, and grow together in collaboration with partner organizations and staff from nearby branches. Library services of the branches and into the community. In an average year, the Rocket crew provides story times, play and learns, and free forever books to around 7,500 families. The Rocket also partners with organizations that serve large populations of English language learners. I was fortunate to see them in action recently in Southern Kansas City. It's a magnificent crew that does great outreach work. They were present for Independence's Juneteenth celebration, and I got more letters than I can count of saying but how wonderful they are. So it's a very deserving department of our organization, and I'm happy to see that they were given this award. Next, probably not as exciting, but no, kidding. We have a new member of our team, and his name's Jeremy Wilmeth, and he comes to us from Lawrence, Kansas. We hired him as a CFO because of his experience and his ability to kind of help us strategize for our financial future. So, Jeremy, if you want to say a few words, introduce yourself to the other board members in the community.
Sure. Thank you all very much. As Aaron said, I've been in government finance for over 15 years. Really enjoy helping to take complex financial information from the government perspective and boil it down to its essence to help people who don't like to study government balance sheets understand what it's actually saying. So I'm happy to join the team and looking forward to working with you all to continue to further the library's financial plan and also to streamline and help bring our policies to the fore so that everybody is following the same procedures and following the same standards going forward.
When we interviewed Jeremy, he told us, and forgive me for revealing this, but he says, I've been interested in government finance since I was in high school. And part of my brain was like, is this a red flag or is this but what it does is it demonstrates a passion for this area. And so we're happy to have you on board, Jeremy, and looking forward to working with you throughout the years. Thank you.
Yeah, where did you go to high school?
Where did you go to high school?
I was in the last graduating class of the Lee Summit High School, which I now understand there are like 3 of them, and possibly a 4th one.
Yep.
Wow.
I was there. There's only once.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, welcome aboard, Jeremy. So we're moving on to the financial reports. So Jeremy, hand it over to you again.
Thank you. This, of course, is all new to me. This is my official 2nd week on the job, so I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you have. Just a few comments on our report. We were comparing the first 2 months of our fiscal year of this year over last year in our taxes that we've collected, excuse me, in July and August of this year is a little over 1.2 million compared to last year, which was a little over 637,000. I've been told that's more of a timing issue than an actual increase in revenue, just about when payments are made from various counties. Aren't any questions on that? We'll move to the next slide. Total revenue for the library's operating fund is just under 1.4 million. Expenditures are just over 8.8 million. This is a really good highlight of why our cash reserve is such a necessary component of this library's structure. Our fiscal year is from July 1st to June 30th, but our cash cycle really starts more on a calendar cycle with the tax cycle as well. As well. So the cash that we're going to be spending from July 1st through the end of November is really that cash that's been held over from the prior fiscal year. And so when you look at our audit that we're going to get into a little later tonight, and you see a cash reserve, a lot of people may get very concerned and say we have a relatively large cash reserve, but that's more of a timing component than an actual reserve of cash for future projects. This is one way to illustrate that is that our operating revenue for the first 2 fiscal months is only 1.4 million. We've actually expended 8.9 million almost. So without that cash reserve, we'd be in a significant problem at this time. In addition to that, we made a $9 million transfer from the operating fund to the capital fund per the 2023-2024 budget. Unless anyone has any questions. Don't really have any other comments, I don't believe. Our debt, the library's only debt is the certificates of participation that were issued in 2018. Payments scheduled per budget have not yet occurred for this fiscal cycle. I'm sorry, the first interest payment was made August 1st, but the principal payment won't be made until February. Other than that, I don't believe I have any other comments unless anyone has any questions.
All right, thank you, Jeremy.
So Gordon, we'll hand it over to you for the Finance and Audit Committee.
Michael Keenan is here with us. He's the Senior Audit Manager with Hood and Associates, and he is going to present the audit work findings. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Gives you more introduction.
Again, my name is Michael Keenan. I'm with Hood and Associates here to present the results of the financial and compliance audit for the fiscal year ended 6/30/2023. You should have received the annual comprehensive financial report with this nice colorful color, as well as a smaller document required communications and management. And to facilitate the presentation, I brought along a PowerPoint. There we go. And this is a report to the Board of Trustees of the Mid-Continent Public Library, prepared by Hood and Associates in association with Ralph C. Johnson and Company. And I want to introduce Ralph. His firm provided some assistance in performing some of the audit procedures. And I appreciate it. Thank you, Ralph. So if you turn to the page, a little bit about Hood and Associates. We've been serving Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma since 1992. We go through what's also called a peer review, where that's an outside independent firm will come in and review our quality control procedures. And we have been awarded the highest rating as a result of that review. We're members of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the AICPA, also the AICPA Government Audit Quality Center. And one of our members, which happens to be me, is a member of the Government Services team that of the Government Finance Office Association, where I review other municipalities when they present their ACFR for award in the financial reporting. And we're licensed to practice in Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Again, scope of the audit. We're engaged to audit the financial statements of Consolidated Library District Number 3, also known as Mid-Continent Public Library. And again, that's this larger report. And as I had mentioned, this report is presented to the Government Finance Officers Association, or the GFOA, for its participation in Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting. It should be noted the library has participated in this program since 2011. So that's 12 straight years that they've been awarded this achievement in excellent financial reporting. And they believe we're going to present this from 2023, and we believe this will qualify as well. A little bit about our responsibilities as the auditors is to conduct our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, as well as governmental auditing standards. We're also responsible to plan and perform our audit to obtain reasonable assurance, but not absolute assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatements. And what that means is we take a risk-based approach as far as the transactions and cycles. We don't test all transactions, so we can't provide absolute assurance, but we can provide reasonable assurance. We're also responsible to report on internal controls and compliance with finance-related laws and regulations. Page 4. The Auditing Standards Board of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants recommend that we communicate these matters to the governing board. Illegal acts, none came to our attention as a result of us performing our audit procedures. There were some changes in significant accounting policies the library did adopt. Government Accounting Standards Board GASB statement number 87 as it relates to leases, and statement number 96 as it relates to subscription-based information technology arrangements. And those are noted in notes 3, 4, and 6 of the financial statements. Basically, the Government Accounting Standards Board changed how all governments report operating leases. It basically makes that report a right to use intangible asset with a lease liability. You still make the normal monthly or annual payments that you're accustomed to within your budget. It just changes the financial reporting of those types of transactions. We're pleased to report we had no difficulties or disagreements with management, and we had cooperation and full access to the books and records. On page 5, financial and compliant audit really addresses 3 basic questions when it gets right down to it. The first question, are the basic financial statements free of material misstatement? Our response to that is we have issued an unmodified opinion that indeed the library's financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. An unmodified is kind of more referred to as a clean opinion. Again, that's the highest level of opinion that external auditors can provide for financial statements. The second question, are internal controls over financial reporting adequately designed and operating effectively? Our response is we did not identify any deficiencies related to internal controls that we consider to be material weaknesses. Again, had we done so, we are required by our profession to report those matters to the governing body. And finally, did the library comply in all material respects with finance-related laws and regulations? The results of our testing disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be, reported. Item page 6. Other management letter comments contain suggestions and best practices and the possible improvements in internal control noted during our audit. And again, that's included in the small bar communications. And we had actually two comments. One related to the Forbes financial and operating assessment report. As you know, the library received that and has implemented a lot of those recommendations. There are some that haven't been implemented or in the process, and we're just recommending that management evaluate which of those to go ahead and adopt or do some type of change. And in relation to that, should consider and evaluating whatever internal or control policies related to credit cards, the capital plan that you've implemented as it's come out of a result of this report. The second one is future accounting pronouncements, and we're down to like 3. That list has dropped dramatically over the last few years. Again, looking at the new pronouncements coming up, I don't see any of the 3 that are going to have any material impact on the library's financial statements. On page 7, a little bit about financial results. Again, this is a graphic of the library's assets, deferred outflows, as they exceeded liabilities and deferred inflows at June 30, 2023, resulting in a net position of $156.3 million. This is an increase of $6.6 million over the prior year. However, when you look at the components of your net assets, 66% of that relates to your infrastructure, capital assets, your books, buildings, et cetera, net of debt. And you have restricted assets, net assets of about 8%, which leaves unrestricted of approximately 28%. Again, numerically, that's shown on the next page. It's on page 8. The bottom portion of the screen that says net position, that's the graphic that was on the previous page. The library's most significant government-wide obligations, as we heard, are related to the Series 2018 certificates of participation. Again, the outstanding balance at June 30, 2023 was around $55 million, just a little bit over. Also, the library reports at the government-wide level another post-employment benefit, OPEB, which relates to the implicit rate subsidy on your health insurance of about $5.2 million. Also, the library reports its participation in the logger's pension plan. And as of June 30, 2023, the library has net assets of the plan of about $11 million compared to net assets of $19 million the previous year. Again, there's also components of different inflows and outflows that kind of smooth that out. Anyway, those funds, again, as you can see on the slide, is about almost 12 million of restricted net assets. Again, that's not available to be spent. It's just assets that are held in the pension plan. And you get an actual evaluation done every year that changes those amounts and determines what your contribution rate is when it gets to your budget time. Page 9, a little bit about the general fund balance. It did increase around 4.4 million for the year ended June 30, 2023, resulting in an ending fund balance of a little over 39 million. Again, 28 million of that is unassigned. And if you look at the percentage of your general fund balance, again, you're looking at the unassigned fund balance being approximately 47% of your 2023-24 expenditures, or as Jeremy alluded to, basically you're floating 6 months because of your year end versus when your taxes. And looking at the assigned component relates to compensated absences, 2.4 million, and you had assigned 9 million that you have actually physically transferred subsequent year to the capital projects. On the next page, page 10, is a little summary of this on page 15 and your audit report of the general fund, capital projects, fund, debt service fund, and your other non-major funds. The income statement, this is what you're used to seeing reported monthly as far as the revenues, expenditures. Again, as you look down on the general fund, you see the fund balance increase of about 4.4 million. When you're looking at revenues in the current year of about 58.5 million, that's an increase of about 1.4 million from the prior year. It wasn't related to taxes, those are pretty flat. The biggest change was the change in interest, as for reporting purposes, you have to report the fair value of investments And at June 30, 2022, they were pretty low, which resulted in a negative investment income, and that's kind of recovered this year. As far as expenditures, in the prior year, they were 50.8 million. So they've increased about 3.3 million over the prior year. Components that relate to that is 2.3 million for personnel, which is for base pay increase and hires, and also 0.9 in general expenses, which is internet utilities and fixed asset type of acquisitions that go through this website. And finally, on page 11, Hood and Associates, again, in association with Ralph, and again, thank you, Ralph. Appreciate the opportunity to serve Mid-Continent Public Library. Certainly thanks to Aaron and Juan and the other staff of the library, very professional to work with and provided us any and all information that we requested. I also want to welcome Jeremy. I meant to do this on Thursday. Jeremy and I have worked together back when he was with the city of Raytown. We were auditors, and I think Jeremy will bring some of his experience and be a valued member of your management team. So I wanted to congratulate you on the job. That concludes my presentation for the audit. Trying to answer any questions that anybody might have.
I have a question. I know the end of the report is a lot of tables, which I think are interesting to look at. When I was involved with the city of some, that's the first thing I read, the data show. But and maybe I'm the only one. On page 65, but it's table 11, direct and overlapping governmental activities debt. All I really want is an explanation. If you need to look at it, that's fine too. But it talks about outstanding debt, and the counties are given 24.6 to Clay, roughly 10 at Platte, and 352 million for Jackson County. Can you just explain to me what overlapping activities debt means and why Jackson County has this huge amount of debt compared to the other?
Okay, so I think what this table is trying to represent, since this library is located in 3 different counties.
Right.
And so what it wants to show is how much is the library's debt, and then how much is the other county debt to get a total. So that it would say, here's how much a citizen of Jackson County will have to pay as proportionate to library debt versus and county debt. So that's just trying to show the total outstanding that it overlaps with the library.
That just the percentage, Bob, the library district is about 2/3 of Jackson County. Okay. So if you remember the charts we went over last week, I applied a 67% factor to the population and the housing, and same thing with Clay. There's a portion of Clay County that is not within the library district. So that's the basis for the percentages, and it's just saying.
Yeah, I just looked at that and I thought, but you're right, on Clay, it's at 94, so Platte at 100. So one of the last question I had, and this is just, I always look at this, if I don't know them, on page 62, which is table 8, principal property taxpayers. And my questions are just, I don't know 4 of these, but do you know what Southern Union, what kind of business that is, or what kind of taxpayer? And GLP Capital and Grace Holding Independence and Gold Merger stuff. I just don't know. I've never heard of those. But they're obviously large.
I think they would have to get that information. As far as the statistical section,
Yes.
that's provided by staff, but that's not audited by us. So we don't express any form of opinion on it. So we certainly looked to compare it, but I don't know right offhand who those are, but I'm sure on where we got the information can provide you a listing of the taxpayers and what businesses they're in. Right. get it together for you.
Yeah, and that's fine, but it is a part of the financial report.
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
I think in the opinion, you clarified that all the information that is presented by management is not audited.
Yeah, and that's, again, when you look at a comprehensive annual report, there's the statistical section, and then in the front, there's the introductory section. Both of those, it has the letter from management and all those things that's provided to the report. It was specifically, if they're correct, in our opinion, we said we provide no other form of assurance. But that is an excellent source of looking at how the library's main statistical and metrics have transpired over the last 10 years. So very valuable information.
And it is a part of the report.
It is part of the report. It's just we don't express an opinion.
Thank you.
You can clarify the audit scope is focused on the financial statements.
Correct.
And the scope of the audit does not encompass all the other information. It doesn't encompass what the board receives monthly or committees, et cetera. Strictly the financial, the government-wide financial statements.
Government-wide,
that's really it.
right. So it's for external reporting. And that's why most governments that don't participate in that program would only provide you the basic financial statements. And that's what our opinion would be based on. But I believe that this is valuable information, but it would just be for us to audit that, to do an opinion on it. So this is clearly stated. It is part of the report, but it's clearly stated what our responsibilities related to that information is.
Well, that's fine. I
just
responsible for anything, but it's just part of an annual comprehensive financial report. Those are
right. But there's some confusion sometimes. If there's information presented in an audit report, then it must be audited. And that's not the case. So that's why I'm up here making sure that I'm saying that's.
But it's in the report.
Yes.
Okay.
We're good. All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much. If you have some questions at some other time, get my contact information, and more than happy to take an email or telephone call to discuss further.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
So I think we have to accept the audit report. And we also need a motion to accept the annual report as well. They're two separate. Okay, so the recommendation from the Finance and Audit Committee to the board is to accept the 2023 annual comprehensive report and audit that was presented, as you have in front of you.
I second the motion.
Ms. Joyce Owens-Zerbo,
Yes.
Mr. Gordon Cook,
Yes.
Ms. Marcy Gray,
Yes.
Bob Johnson,
Aye.
Michael Lazzio,
Yes.
Ms. Lori Lemunion,
Yes.
Dr. Yemi Pandolfi,
Aye.
Noel Step. Is she on?
Yes,
Are you there?
I'm here.
Fantastic. Yes. Dr. Susan Wilson. Ms. Michelle Whitehall.
Yes.
Dr. Susan Wilson. Cody, isn't Dr. Wilson on the call?
Teresa, yes, she chatted aye.
Okay, fantastic. Motion carries.
Okay, next up is the levy certification. Do you want me to quick overview, or do you want to do it? Sure. Preference.
It's fine with me. I can
Should be two documents up there, Cody. One is just the official calculation of the state. That the one here is the, do this one, Jeremy.
Sure. Question. This document before you is a little bit of a deeper breakdown into the assessed value for the counties for the various types of property classifications, comparing what we actually received, what was just reported in the audit, with a projection that I believe was made earlier this year, along with what's in the actual budget document. And the final column is that final assessed valuation that we received from all three counties, what that levy calculates to based on the Hancock Amendment adjustments. And so we've listed for your consideration the various analysis to the three counties and summarized at the bottom. The budget is projected at $64.5 million. The levy calculations at a 93% collection rate calculates in $63.4 million, so a little bit under the budget. But in discussions with staff, we believe that collections will probably come in a little higher than what we anticipated. So for your consideration, we've just provided what that difference would be. At 94%, it's about $64 million. And for every 1%, either up or down, the collections go is around $500,000. So flip side, if we only collected 92%, we'd be at just over or just under $63 million. And if we collected 95%, we'd be around where our budget is. That's all.
Okay. So in essence, when we did this last September, we approved the voluntary reduction of the levy. That's what you see in the second column. The budget was put together, as Jeremy said, and then what has come in as the final assessed values by county is in the right column. There's some movement between you look at the bottom, you'll see that the railroad utilities appears to be down 24%. There's some movement between that and the real and personal in terms of how one of the counties reports will be that's somewhat misleading. But as Jeremy said, the collection rates, this was budgeted more conservatively. The 63,438 in the second column is a 93% collection rate. The budget was set at, I think, may have been set at 94. And then the levy calculation, you see the 63,427 is also an estimated 93% rate. So we're assuming it's going to be higher, probably closer to the historical average of 95%. So basically says we're going to be pretty much on target. The second document is just the official state calculation. The levy approved last year was 32.4. It is subject to Hancock. I'm not going to go into the weeds, but basically limited to our taxes are limited to a 5% maximum increase. So the levy, because of the valuation adjustments, and those were significant. I think Jackson overall was in the low 30s, and then Clay and Platte were in the teens, upper teens. So the levy goes from 0.3240 down to 2.911, and that has been approved by the state. So the motion to the board is to approve the 0.2911 levy for the upcoming tax year. This has to get mailed to the counties no later than September 30th, and then goes into the systems and taxes will be collected. Any questions?
I have a question. The Jackson County property assessment protest, how is that going to impact the library given we also have cash flow issue? I know we're kind of stuck with this, but I'd like to have a better understanding of how that goes together.
I didn't hear all of that.
She's asking about the appeals. Jeremy, do you know the number offhand?
I don't know it offhand. I know that we took a look at the outstanding appeals and felt like, given how they're traditionally handled through the Board of Tax Appeals, that it would have an immaterial effect on the overall assessed valuation for the county. The majority of the adjustments that already transpired before the county sent us the revised number.
I guess my question is more about the receipt of the tax funds.
Yes, so the taxpayers who have filed a protest will pay under protest, and those funds will be held separately. There's really no good way for us to know what that amount is, other than to say that I believe the amount that's currently in protest for the library is less than $1 million on the residential side, and the overall residential value is markedly higher than that. So from a percentage perspective, we don't feel that even if they're paid under protest, it would still be adjudicated in our current budget year. So we may not get them in January, but we should get them before June.
Claude explained this at one of our previous meetings, that the appeal, the taxes paid in on appeal are held for 90 days.
Yes.
And then they'll be remitted. So what may have been paid to us in December or January will probably show up in March or April. But as Jeremy said, we don't expect the issue in lost revenue would be just delinquent taxes.
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of having the cash available.
Yeah, it's a short-term timing issue.
So do we need a motion for the full board to certify the operating levy at 0?
Well, I made the motion. It needs a second.
Okay.
Somebody already did. I'll make it.
I moved to second.
Okay. Right. Yes, Jeremy.
Sorry, real quick, if we could just clarify that the motion is the operating levy at 2911 for the tax year of 2023. Yes. That's true. Correct. Tax year.
Could I make a comment too, just from I think for the general public, and this is a lot of information that basically it's a 10% reduction in property tax. Right?
Yeah, that's
Well, and that's good for those of us who live in counties that have increased assessments. You kind of now want to know, obviously you calculate your taxes with two factors in mind, your assessed valuation and the tax rate. So this is roughly a 10% reduction in the actual tax rate from 2022.
That's purpose of Hancock. Because otherwise, if you're
Yeah, no, I'm just in.
Well, but just to clarify, if your valuation went up 30% and the tax levy stayed flat, then you would have a 30% tax increase. So
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that there is a lot of the actual rate. If you didn't have any, if your property assessed valuation stays the same, you'll have tax reduction from the library district.
on an individual basis, that could, yes, that would be correct.
Any other questions?
And then
Ms. Joyce Roberto. Aye. Mr. Gordon Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Marcy Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bob Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Michael Lazio.
Aye.
Ms. Lorena Munyon.
Aye.
Dr. Yummy Pandolfi.
Aye.
Ms. Noel Smith. Ms. Rita Weiss. Aye. Dr. Susan Wilson. Ms. Michelle Whitehall. Aye. Ms. Noel Stepp.
Aye.
Dr. Susan Wilson. Cody, are you getting a response from Dr. Wilson?
No, I'm gonna chat with her.
For now, I'll mark her as not president vote, but the motion carries.
Okay. Should be a couple pages, Cody, with, okay, you can stop there. This is just an update on the capital plan. This is a schedule you saw in January. Numbers are updated. There haven't been what I'll call significant changes in the total expenditures, 131,814,000. You see at the below the table, and you can see the fundings and the with the $9 million transfer that was made in July, the cash deficiency is in the range of 4.4 million. If you recall from the discussion, then the funds were held in a I'll call a form of a money market vehicle through Natixis, and the interest off that was 3,740,000. So including that, the deficiency gets down to 645,000. I would note that within the 131.8 million are estimates for contingencies. So at this point, it's a function of where the project's complete and whether those funds will be expended. If we don't spend the contingency money, then that 645 will decrease and possibly turn positive, which is what we hope for. And then the next page you see is just the detail by project, if you want to get down into project by project basis. That just summarizes up to the 131 million. And the estimate to complete, I believe that number is, you can see it, 13.1 million, which is approximates the capital or the surplus in the capital fund at the end of August. And I'll talk about cash flow here in a minute. So any questions on that? Okay, move on to the next one, coding. Can you go to the next page first? No, back up. There should have been a cash flow. Okay, so there's nothing here. We had in previous meetings, the first cut we did of the cash flow because of the investments, which I'll talk about in a second. We were going to be in an operating fund deficit of a little over 14 million. That was projected back in January. And then the following fiscal year, the 24-25 year, was projected to be a little over 16 million. Aaron and the staff made changes in the ways, in the timing of some of the expense disbursements. Obviously, that's impacted by capital projects and how quickly those funds are dispersed. So the current estimate for the 23-24 year is a little under $5 million. And the estimate for 24 and 25 is in the range of $9 million. So it's come down significantly from January. And again, that will depend on, whether taxes come in from delinquents or otherwise. So as you recall, we approved the financing through central bank to cover that deficit. Cody, if you go to the next page, okay. It's a lot of numbers here. I'm showing this because the board has not seen this in the past. Those are the assets those are the securities in the capital fund. And as you recall, those were invested in longer duration maturities. You'll look at the coupon rate on those. The average overall is about 1%. I'm sure you're well aware that short-term rates are now at over 5%. So there are significant unrealized losses. We discussed that. There was an option to sell these to provide cash, which means we're going to take a pretty good size realized loss, or we can write it out through in concert with the operating fund use short-term borrowing for really maybe 2 or 3 months at a nominal interest cost. And that's the decision that was made as to how we proceed. So if you look at this, the bulk, this is calendar year, this is not fiscal year. So the calendar year, you'll see 23, 24, but the bulk of the securities mature in 25 and 26. So we have a ways to go. The only way that will change is if short-term rates decline as we get further into the duration cycle, that market haircut / discount will decrease. But again, it depends on rates, which at least from what I get from the guys I work with, they don't expect that to come down. So we're going to have to write this out. So anyway, so that's just presented up there for information. Yes,
Is that available in Word docs?
should be.
Yes,
Yes.
actually, it is. It's attached to Word docs. We can pull it up if you'd like.
What's that?
That document you refer to.
Are you asking, is this in board docs?
Yeah, it's in Word.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That's fine.
But I mean, is it in the present, is it in the meeting notes, or is it just in?
It should have been on,
The
should have
I'm
been.
looking in the handout, the attachments in here. I'm not seeing. It's just, I can't see that.
It's in.
There should be a document.
Is that the one called projected cash flow update?
Well, there's 2 documents for both, we're both labeled 6.6. One is the
That one's
cash
the
flow and
bonds.
this is the bonds.
Yeah, both of those are loaded in Word docs.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are those investment decisions, is that what the financial consultant, they make those, is central bank making those decisions on those securities?
Okay, so I'll talk about this, but we were not aware of this until about September of last year. As I understand, and again, I wasn't on the board until late January, early February of 22. It was my understanding these decisions were made prior to that. I don't know the communications that occurred. Typically, or what you would hope should have been done is that you have your assets matched up with your liabilities / estimated obligations. So you would match up the schedule with your construction payout schedule. That's what you would normally do. Okay. I don't know the instructions that were given. I don't know what communication took place. All I know is when we found out we were $2 million in the hole.
Well, no, I certainly wasn't even on the board at that time. I didn't know if the district was participating in this decision or it's all a matter of.
The central bank, it's actually central trust is to, but was provided the investment policy, why they went again. I mean, it's either second guess in hindsight. But rates, if you remember back in 2021 were next to zero.
Right.
They went out on curve to pick up, I assume, I don't know.
Yeah.
They went out on the curve and, pick up 40 basis points. Anyway, the good thing is those assets will be realized at their maturity dates, and you could liquidate them other than 5% short-term bonds, but you have to hope that that 5% is going to stick for 2 or 3 years to make sure you recover all of the $2 million.
Gordon, this is Lori Lemunion. I have a question regarding some of these rates, and if you would please help me understand. So a lot of the times when you have money tied up into a 5-year or so CD, you can go to the bank, you can cash it in and maybe get a new CD for a shorter term for a much higher rate. And then maybe that penalty is realized. But if you're getting from 0.04% to 5.5%, normally that would make up the difference. Have we looked into that, or have we talked to the banks about that, that change?
I haven't, but the way the trust, at least I'll explain the way I think the trust works, is they're buying these CDs on the open market, and they'll buy a block of them for their clients. for the trust department clients, and they'll place them into the different accounts. I think the situation where you're talking about is where you have I'm making an assumption here, where you have a relationship with that bank and they can make some adjustments. These are nothing more than bonds, no different than the agency or the treasury, the one treasury you see on there. So if you want to sell it, you're going to sell it through a broker and you're going to take the best bid you can get.
I see. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Okay, and let's move to the yes or just a. Okay, okay, so now we're on to item 6.7, which is the Prop L review resolution. Okay, this I put some schedules up here. They are schedules you saw in April on board docs, board meetings. There's a whole bunch of documents, but I just pulled out 5 of these just as a refresher tonight. So Cody, I'm going to do a very quick rundown of this. The first page you see here is the data that was on the dashboard at the time it was presented to the board. So you can see the different dates where it started off as 84.5 million back in October of 2018. And then the last document that I had at the time was March of 22, where the individual details totaled to 91.3 million. And the total that was presented at the bottom of the dashboard was 84.5 million. So a $6.8 million variance. And I just noted that that was not the first time that occurred. If you flip to the next page, there's the cash flow schedule. All right, you can skip that. We're done with that. Where are all the other documents? There we go. Okay, so there are four other pages here. These are the J.E. Dunn schedules that were presented within the work packages. Again, you saw this in April. It's just a refresher. But two things that were noted is that I guess what I'll call the current estimate is not the same as what was presented to the board on the dashboard. And the column, I think, that is labeled something, maybe adjusted budget or budget, is not the static 84.5 million. That number changed. So if you flip back, Cody, to the last page, you have to go. Did you put them all in here? There should have been 4 pages. It looked like. Keep going. One more. Okay, I can't read the bottom. You increase the size of that. Thank you. Okay, oops. Okay, so at the bottom, I think no, it's not even 84.5. Huh? Is there one? I changed the order. I changed the order from the finance committee. There should be one anyway. There's one that shows 84.5 million total on both columns. Anyway, so 3 years ago, in May of 2020, the projected total was 93 plus million. So there was an little over 8 million, maybe 9 million spread. And as you saw in the summary that was presented in January, we were 13 million over budget on the construction side. So the point being that what was presented to the board was not the same information that was being presented or discussed done underneath on the work. So I thought I'd just give a brief history here in terms of what I call the Prop L review, and that became what became known as the special agreed upon procedures review. So we initially talked about this in the summer, and I didn't look back at the exact month. I think it was either July or August. We talked about that. But at the time, there was no accounting, full accounting of Prop L other than the dashboard. That's what you saw on the first page. June of 22, that 6.8 million discrepancy was noted in the March 22 dashboard. Okay? And there was no other information available at the time to evaluate what happened there. The subsequent discussions in terms of the liquidity and the assets, we were told that there were assets to fund all the remaining Propel costs. The assets were there, they just weren't as liquid as we thought, at least not without taking realized losses. The finance / board was unaware of that. And again, I think we got to the full details in September of 22. Some of my dates I checked, some of these are memory. In September of 22, after discussion, the board approved $60,000 for the special procedures review. That was just a general estimate at the time. We didn't have any real good information. We kind of just off some input, some understanding of how many hours we think it might take. In November 22, there was a first cut of what I'll call a full accounting. That turned out to be incomplete. The first full accounting was presented to the January board, which is the schedule you saw previously. Obviously, it's been updated. That's when the $13 million overage was first identified. In January 23, also, CFO Systems was approved to prepare the scope document for the RFP. That RFP was sent out in late May. In April, as I mentioned, these schedules were presented to the board showing the history of of what happened to the budget, that it had been changed. Again, I was not here, but it appears the board's not aware of it. Where are those changes? The documents that Teresa provided, I did not see where they were included, or at least when I looked at the board docs, it didn't appear that information was shared with the board. And again, the May 2020 done schedule showed that just the construction costs and sales were $8+ million over the original budget. In May, as part of the 23-24 budget, that under professional fees, there was $70,000 included for this review project. The RFP was sent out in May. We received one response from CLA. We looked at that, considering what we thought it would take and the estimated size of the project. I didn't pull that up. Fees on that were low 20s, I think.
In the neighborhood.
In the low 20s. And we thought that the concern was whether they had really given, if there was a misunderstanding about the scope of the project. For a comparison, if you remember when we did the disbursements RFP, we had bids ranging from 6,000 to 40,000. We went back with each of the respondents and discussed the scope, and the ultimate bid that was received by Forbes was in the range of, I think, 16,000. So we felt that that had appropriate time, and they had an understanding of the scope of what we were. So we got this back. The initial, I guess our initial reaction was that they may have probably underestimated the project. That's not uncommon. I guess in another comparison, our current audit fees are about $39,000. If somebody came in and said, we'll do your audit for $10,000, I would really question whether or not they understood the scope and the degree of audit. And when you get into these projects, you have planning time, you have meeting times, then you get into the details of the procedures, and then you have to compile the results. That has to get reviewed, reports prepared, presented to finance committee and the board. It just seemed like the hours that they estimated. And again, this is not a criticism. This is just sometimes that happens where they may not understand everything that we wanted. And again, they were the only respondent. And we know that some of the other respondents chose not to because they thought the fees, even at 50 or 52,000, were not adequate because this is a fairly extensive. So the discussion of the finance committee was, how do we proceed here? The options, and again, I don't purport to have all the answers. It was presented to the finance committee that we could go at least one of two ways. One is we go back to the people or to these groups, and the board has to the board has to be open to possibly increasing the budget from 70 to something. I'm going to say north of maybe north of $80,000 or $90,000, and ask them to reevaluate. The other option, given where we are, the subsequent findings we've had in terms of the budget, I think management is, I guess the feedback from management is that the documentation we have from Dunn and the disbursements, appears to be intact. We just have a case where funds went over budget. And again, the board approved work packages individually. The board was not receiving what I'll call a project-wide budget every time it made every time it was presented a work package for approval. So it was really a piecemeal approval that was done without having the benefit of saying, are we close to budget? Are we, what's happening with the 84.5? There was another 5.2 contingency, but as I noted, we're also almost $1 million over on architect's fees. So when you throw that in, it's almost $15 million over. So the question that was posed to the finance committee is there were a couple options. One was to go back and go down the path of the review and follow that and have that project done. The other option was to say, we don't think we're going to find anything where funds were misappropriated, or Dunn was paid monies that it wasn't due, or the architect was paid money that wasn't due. Is there a risk of that? And do we want to spend the funds to just confirm that the payments went out the door for things that were rightfully billed and work that was done? The other option that I put out was to say we have two experts that we have available. One is the current group, and I don't remember their name. EMC, who obviously are experts in what they do, and they're doing an excellent job, as I understand, for the remaining 5 branches. You have CFL Systems, which has extensive construction experience. Obviously, with Jeremy on board now. But we can take advantage of this expertise and create a set of procedures and policies so that this type of situation doesn't reoccur. And I asked for the finance committee to further options, open the floor. There weren't any that came up, so that's where we are currently. So at this point, it's a question for the board as to how we want to proceed. So I'm going to open for discussion. And if the finance committee, I would like if the finance committee wants to make comments first, so that everybody can hear what their view is. So in case I misstated something from last Thursday.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think that was really it.
And so,
my concern on I'm kind of through with more outside consultants, more expenditures, and I think we have enough information, internal help, and so yeah, my view was we don't need to continue spending money on this project. We can do it internally, staffing.
Well, and I think I'll let the rest of them speak. So go ahead. Use a restroom. Yummy.
Yeah,
Michelle.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
No, I was gonna just concur.
I feel kind of the same as Bob. It seems like, continuing to pursue this is kind of throwing good money. I mean, it was good, we know it, but now it's a point where what is the gain? curiosity, or is it actually going to fulfill something? I'm also curious. In all the discussion of this, I'm wondering if the committee has looked at this whole process based on what was decided when it was voted on. When it was voted on, there were several projects that were pulled out, and I don't see that in here. If you go back to the original vote, the original plan, things like Riverside, we know was pulled out, certain other branches were pulled out of that $85 million plan to be decided on later. And I don't see that anywhere represented in this as far as when it was originally voted on.
That's, there was a schedule. There was a schedule in the April board docs. I didn't include it here, showing the votes. If you go
I'm
back.
not talking about the votes, I'm talking about the plan itself.
Well,
I was trying to find it.
I guess I'm not sure which one you're talking
My
about.
question is, you can't answer my question unless you've understood it. My question is, has that been the original plan? Not what we would have liked to have seen, but what the original plan, the original design of this, what was to be included in that 80-something million, what was to be included and what was not. Is that considered in this, or have we just lumped it all in and taken a look at it? Because to me, that would have been a place to start.
I guess when you say what was included and what not, the proposal that was laid out in front of the public was an $84.5 million budget.
You're not understanding my question.
Well, then why don't you help me understand your question?
I'm
not. So there's a couple ways to, let me try to explain. There were decisions along the way, okay, that the board was presented on a piecemeal basis, okay?
That's not my question.
I just explain what I think the situation is, okay? Those decisions, I wasn't around then, but you had a master plan of 84.5 million. That was the pie. Okay, so you can talk about what got put in and what got taken out. It doesn't matter from my perspective in terms of managing the aggregate budget and dollars that were available. You had 84.5 million plus a $5.2 million contingency to cover anything that came up within the defined scope. And again, the board can approve additional projects, but the board needed to know what the funding cost of that was. And all along the way, the board was told that they were, from what I see, the board was told that they were on budget at 84.5 million. The done documents say that that was not the case. Okay. And again, I'm just, these are the numbers. So your assertion that you have to take into account.
I'm not making an assertion. I was
You're making a statement.
question.
You're making a statement that you have to take into account all these things that were added and changed. And my comment is, okay, fine, but I still had a pie of 84.5 million plus a 5.2 million. If you wanted to spend 110 million, you should have come back to the board and said, we think the whole thing needs to be funded 110 million. The board never knew that.
The answer to my question is no.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I mean, I was on that committee too, and we asked.
What you're talking about, that's not my question.
I understand that, but now you can laugh all you want. We asked over and over. I remember asking, were we still on budget? At no point did they say continue. They completely always told us we were on budget.
I understand that. I understand.
So it doesn't justify overspending.
I'm not saying that.
But
I
it
asked
kind of
a
does
simple
sound,
question.
I get it, but it kind of does
asked a
sound like you're
simple
excusing that
question.
behavior.
That has nothing to do with the question I was asking. I asked a simple question, was it considered? The answer obviously is no. So thank you.
It is what it is.
The purpose of the discussion was not to sit and cherry pick what did or didn't get done.
It was a question. I thought it was open for questions.
Okay. Well, the answer is the answer is, did we take all those pieces that were pulled in and taken out into consideration?
I thought that
The
was
answer
part
is
of the
no.
audit process.
The review was, we had 84.5 plus 5.2 of a contingency, and it went to $104 million without the board knowing. At least that's the way it appears to me, is that the board did not know that. And again, I'm just showing the numbers up here.
Numbers don't tell the full story. In my opinion.
Joyce, and I know you have a different view,
Yes, I
but
do.
you had dollars expended.
And I have the right to have
The board
it.
approved, the board approved individual projects without knowing it. It's like,
That was not my opinion. I followed the dollars.
well, why wasn't it presented to the board then in the aggregate?
I believe it was.
So
We
you
have a
knew we
different-
were over by that amount?
I never,
Yes. You realized we were, how did the rest of us not understand that?
Because you're including projects that weren't in that original amount. That's my question. I was following the projects that were included in the amount that was budgeted. I was not including those other ones,
Cody,
which
pull
is
back
why
up the
I am
dashboard.
asking.
Cody, pull the dashboard summary. So if that's the case, Joycelyn, every time, every one of these, okay, every one of these had 84.5 million. That's what was represented to the board as what they were incurring. All the way through the budget that was approved in June of 22. You know, I know what you're trying to say is that all these
I'm
things.
not trying to say
Well,
anything.
no, because as I said it previously, the board approved individual work packages without seeing the aggregate.
You
Cody,
keep repeating the same thing. That's okay.
there's nothing else to say, because if you're going to manage $100 or $90 million project, you manage against $90 million. You don't manage against some number that keeps moving around. The board didn't know the numbers were moving around. At least that's what it appears to me, and that's what these things show. So the reason this came up is because it's like, what else is out there? And I think we have since discovered, and with Quan's help and just digging into what's available, I don't want to say we have our arms around it, but we were, at least at this point, it looks like we have our arms around what the total project is, and it's $132 million. The original presentation to the public was 113.2 million. Every budget book that was presented to the public in June for board approval had $113.2 million in it. So what was going on was different than what was being presented to the public.
Gordon, this is Noelle. First of all, thank you for the tremendous amount of time that you and the finance committee have put into this, because it's mind-boggling. I guess I'm just wondering why I feel like the discussion's kind of going down a rabbit hole, and really where we're at right now is we need to decide what we do going forward. It doesn't seem logical to spend more money to figure out the nuts and bolts of what happened when we weren't here. It sounds like we need to move forward, and we need to have a plan to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. I mean, is there any other, what else would we be doing? We're either spending the money to figure it out or we're not, right?
Well, those are sort of the two options that came out of the finance discussion.
So is that something we vote on?
We have to vote on whether to accept or reject the CLA proposal. And then the board can provide some direction as to how it wants us to proceed, and we'll proceed on that basis.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, so There's a recommendation. Is that correct, Bob?
I think our recommendation was coming here, but basically, do we go forward with this consulting contract? And I mentioned that my view in committee was we stop this. I think we all understand what happened. I've got the dashboard history and so forth. And I don't know who, I know it doesn't matter whether I built houses or not. You can't predict too much in the future on construction costs. So I think we all understand that now. You can't estimate 6 years from now and estimate accurate costs. So why add to consulting contracts when we're not going to learn anything new? And I think that's kind of what.
Well, given what we know today versus last September, we knew next to nothing last September. A year ago.
So is there a motion, Bob?
Well,
the motion there is no motion that came out of the finance committee.
Right.
Okay.
The only motion that came out of the finance committee was to decline the CLA response.
Okay.
But again, if the board wants us to proceed with CLA and go back to them and discuss what they're going to do, I'll be glad to do that. So it's a vote by the board as to whether we accept it and move forward or we decline it. And then that doesn't preclude the second part, which is we need to come up with a framework and policies and procedures for how we handle major capital projects going forward. Because again, we have experts currently working. We have CFO Systems. We have Jeremy. I think between the three of them, and again, that's not going to cost $70,000. But you have expertise at hand, and take advantage of it.
So
if you want a motion of some kind?
yes.
Okay.
The motion from the finance committee was to decline the CLA proposal.
You can read that. So the motion from the finance committee was approval of a recommendation from Finance and Audit Committee not to accept the offer of services CLA is listed in the RFP. That's the motion. So
Correct.
do I have a second?
You second it?
I'm just seconding the motion.
Thank you.
So Teresa?
Discussion?
Yeah. Any
Any
discussion?
further discussion?
Got a lot of discussion.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
I guess just as an aside, I mean, it's kind of left open right there. I think we have sufficient associates of the district and our own personnel that we don't have to go out any longer to seek another contractor to consultant to give us recommendations. She's not in that, but that's kind of what happens if this is approved, then how do you continue? And I just think we continue with contractors we have and our own staff.
Exactly. So, Teresa?
Ms. Joycelyn Virgo.
Aye.
Mr. Gordon Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Marcy Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bob Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Michael Lazio.
Aye.
Ms. Lori Lemunion.
Aye.
Dr. Yumi Pandolfi.
Aye.
Ms. Noel Stepp.
Aye.
Ms. Rita Weiss. Aye. Dr. Susan Wilson. Ms. Michelle Whitehall. Aye. Cody, is Dr. Wilson still on?
She is still on the line, but I'm not getting a response.
I will mark her as not present. Vote, motion carries.
All right. Moving along. Lori, you ready for the technology committee report?
Yes. So we had a great technology meeting yesterday, and Brian has done a wonderful job of really making a presentation. And so I don't want to hold up the meeting any longer. I'm going to give the floor to Brian so you can see the work that he's done.
Aaron, did you want me to share that one? Number? Huh?
Whatever you like.
Yeah.
Okay, give me 1 second. That's it right there. I want to say thank you to Lori Lemunion for yesterday, and Michael Lazio and Joyce Virgo for being there yesterday. We did have a really good meeting. And I really appreciate all their feedback and the conversation. Just real quickly, we'll go over this. This is kind of a year in recap of our 22-23. You can see the numbers there on the screen that we had. We had a really good year technology wise. We have our learning and training services on top there. All of our in-house customer programs, whether they're virtual or in person, we saw some good, those are the number of programs that we held this year. And then below that, you can see where we had all of our in-house staff training. That department does the same services. They do all of our technology programs for the customers and our in-house staff training. And so we had a lot of turnover this year. And so we did a lot of training this year. And we had a lot of great feedback on that. Below that, we had some of the stats from the My MCPL website. You can see the database sessions were about the same as they were a year ago. The website sessions, are there. We had a pretty good increase in that. And remember that website sessions don't really equate to like door counts. These are things that people come and do. These are multiple things that they do. It's like if they walk into the door to branch and they check out a book or they attend a program, they're doing multiple things when they come in the building. That's what a website session is. And we use that number just to kind of base activity on the website, and it gives us kind of a running number to look at. Online catalog sessions is below that. Again, we saw a good increase in that this year. And that's just people going and searching for books and placing holds on books. And so we have a great number of people that use that. And then lastly, we reported on the number of just internet access sessions that we had. We have our public computer sessions, which saw a good increase this year. Guest Wi-Fi sessions, that's for our free Wi-Fi in the buildings that people come in and use. And that saw a good increase this year. And then we have our 2 to-go services. We have our Chromebooks that we check out to customers. They can take those home and use those at home. And we also have Wi-Fi to go, which is hotspots that people can check out and take home and have internet in the house. And we had a really good year there as well on those. And then last but not least, it's kind of underneath me, but it's our Excel Adult High School. We partner with Kansas City Public, Literacy KC on that program. This year we had 24 graduates from that program, and last year we had 23. And we had the same 13 graduates from Mid-Continent Public Library. Those are students that actually claim Mid-Continent kind of as their home library system. And so, yeah, that's kind of a year in review wrap up. If anybody has any questions about that, just let me know. And then we also went over, I'm not going to go into detail in the rest of it because we took a deep dive kind of in we started kind of a beta of a technology refresh plan for like the next 5 years. And we kind of laid out for the technology committee what we would need for immediate needs and for 1 to 3 and 3 to 5 years. And we started working on that with them. And I got some really great feedback from everybody on the committee. And I really appreciate all of that feedback. And last thing we looked at was some very early design layouts for the new fundraising and foundation website that Diana and her team, Diana Ryder and her team are working on. They're doing a great job on that. We're just kind of making sure that it fits into the website and does those things. But Diana and her team are pulling all the legwork on that and doing an outstanding job. The site looks great. We hope to have something that we can show an actual working copy here in the next few weeks. And we can show everybody that. But if anybody from the technology committee has any other comments, that was sort of what we talked about. It was a very good meeting. So
Yeah, just wanted to thank you again, Brian. Thank you, Diana, for all your work on the website. And thank you, Brian, for really putting all of this together. I know there's a lot of other slides that you had, and I appreciate you condensing that down so everybody doesn't have to redo that whole meeting. But thank you again for all your work.
Thank you, Lori. I really appreciate it. So thanks.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Lori. Great meeting, and we really appreciate all the hard work.
I'll say this, I do have a really great staff that helped me put all this together. So I'll give them a lot of this credit for helping me do it. I mean, this isn't just me. I have a really great staff that does all of this. So, but yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank the staff. Or you have anything else?
No, I do not. We can go on to the next one.
All right. Building committee is next, and Aaron is going to present that.
Right. So, so what we have to report this month is we're happy to report that our North Oak branch is open. And the vast majority of our outstanding items have been taken care of, and it's just a wonderful branch. We've received a lot of positive feedback about it. We're happy that it's open. Rain Valley is next in line, and we predict that opening to be roughly within the next 1 to 2 weeks. There's still some technology issues we need to resolve before opening. Riverside and East Independence are moving along, and if you look in the board docs, you can see construction updates. I don't know, Cody, are there any?
Cody, if you go to board docs, you can see the construction of.
Yeah. For some reason,
Sure what that is.
This is what the pictures are doing. So it's doing it in, so this is the new happy look for our brand.
That just means everyone's talking.
Yes, I know. So I don't know why it's doing that. It's doing it in both copies that we have. So it's a graphics glitch. So enjoy.
I have.
Right. But I did want to add a little remark in response to Noel's comments. Excuse me. We understand that there's confusion about the way project budgets were handled in the past. And so with Jeremy on board and my work with PMC, we're thinking about how we communicate that information on our 2 remaining projects to the board. So earlier this year, I mean, we approved GMPs or a GMP for Riverside, and staff presented soft costs as they relate to technology and furniture. But our intention is to present you with hard costs the best we can. Like, what is our best estimate as to what it'll take to complete both projects? Because we want there to be no confusion. It is, some of these numbers can get squishy, but we think we have a firm handle on what the true cost of opening both branches are, and we will present that to the board in the coming months. So next, we're going to kick it over to Diana.
Well,
Oh, yes. What's that?
Building rules. I've been appointed chair of the building committee. Just
Oh,
It's
you
all
ever
right.
announce that?
I don't know if it.
Oh, we were off for August, so.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so excuse me.
Yeah.
Well, only that Aaron and I had met with to bring me up to date. Yeah, Ron appointed me that, I don't know what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago,
Something like
whatever.
that.
And
Forgive me.
no, it's fine.
Yeah, forgive me too.
It really is fine. And in the process, I have then met via Zoom with Aaron and our consultants. And then to show I was a real construction person, I left my pickleball game in shorts and t-shirt, but put on my construction boots and went out and introduced myself to the superintendent, some of the tradespeople at East Lee Summit, or East Independence. And so I said, who is this guy walking up here with a card that says he's on the board? And it was a great conversation, but I would hope that we want to plan on meeting in October then. And I'll just talk to the members of the committee, see if they want to continue with Thursday. It was third Thursday.
That's right. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're up. Yeah, we'll go forward.
Well, welcome as the
Yeah, congratulations.
committee chair.
But I knew how to dress when I went out to a building site.
Diana Reiner. I am the library's fundraising director and also the staff liaison for the Library Foundation. We have not had a fundraising and development committee meeting, but I thought I'd give you some highlights over the last month or so. I guess since the last board meeting, been 2.5 months. I did want to note too on Ryan's comments, the fundraising pages that we're developing to improve our very dated fundraising pages were funded by the Kauffman Foundation. So that's a project that the Kauffman Foundation has given us funds to do. So we're grateful for that. Since the last meeting, we've also received word from the Kauffman Foundation that we have a $200,000 grant for the next 12 months to help us underwrite some public programs, to fund some of the Square One programs for small businesses in particular, and the Culinary Center programs for small businesses. Some of these funds will also help with some staff development and training, as well as some scholarships for the Culinary Center for small businesses. So we were grateful to the Kauffman Foundation. They really do a lot for us to be able to create a better environment, better service for our customers. And so they generally annually give us a pretty nice gift. So we did receive that since the last meeting. We've got 2 Missouri State Library grants, one for $2,900 to help pay for presenter fees for our Lit Up Teen Literature Festival. It's coming up in October. And $595 for continuing education grant for one of my staff members to attend a fundraising conference here in Kansas City. So happy to have those 3 grants come in. We did 2 donor preview tours of our new branches prior to opening. We did a tour of the North Oak branch and the Green Valley branches. So several of you came, so thank you for that. And then a major gift was given to the Library Foundation. We made a connection with a couple who attended the Legacy Luncheon, and they expressed an interest, a passion for literacy learning, brought their son to one of our branches when he was young for the summer library program. So they made a first-time gift to the Library Foundation of $10,000. So we're really grateful for that. And they wanted it specifically to fund that Reading Rocket program, which is our early literacy outreach program. So we're really thrilled that people are reaching out to us and really making gifts. I will say that she's a retired nurse and he's a retired MoDOT mechanic. So these are folks that, are just really passionate about the libraries and what libraries do for others. So Foundation met in August. We'll meet again in December, which we'll share that date with all of you when that time comes close. Any questions?
Thank you, Diana. Appreciate it. Great job. Turn it over to Joyce Virgo, Personnel Committee.
Okay. Personnel Committee has met since the last time. If anyone has anything they would like the Personnel Committee to look at besides a long calendar, just let me know and I'll work with Erin and everybody on that. The only other thing is our annual loggers meeting is coming up, but we'll deal with that later in the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Librarians report.
Librarians report. Okay. Well, first we will go through some developments with staff. Something a little bit new today, which we're welcoming our newest hires. As you'll see in the next 2 slides, we have roughly, I think it's like 9 or, I don't know, 12 new hires. Wait, there's 2 more. Are there any more?
Yes.
Yes. Look at that, 16 new hires. And all the new hires, forgive me for not naming you individually, but nonetheless, we appear to have a very sharp group of people who want to work at the Continent Public Library, and welcome aboard. The next 2 slides chronicle internal changes with staff, and these are tell a great story about people who are moving on and up, or maybe parallel moves to elsewhere in the system, and we're happy that they have the opportunity to do so. Let's see, what do we have next? All right. A lot of beautiful slides, and one more, keep going. Okay, this is the part that I'm looking forward to. So next slide, please. All right, so we're celebrating 25 years of service with 2 wonderful people. Deanna Gash and Kathy Hampton. Both are wonderful employees, and Deanna works in our technical services department. and Kathy at our North Oak branch, which I had the pleasure of visiting the other day. If you have not been out there, it's a wonderful staff and they have a great community that just loves the library. Now, the next one is very important to me because this person was one of the first to welcome me to headquarters. And Deidre Brown, who can't be with us tonight because of a family emergency, is an assistant manager in delivery services. And I'm going to make every effort to get her before the board because she's just an absolutely wonderful employee who is just so kind to me. I met her, I think, on my first or second day. I was wandering around headquarters and ended up back in shipping department. And there's this burst of sunlight, which is Deidre. We just had a wonderful conversation, and she stops by every so often to my office, and she's just absolutely great. So to read one of the pull-out quotes, I think the first one says it all. Deidre has the biggest heart. She cares about everyone and will take time out of her busy schedule to help someone or go out of her way to get answers from people. And it's absolutely true. So Deidre, thank you for your service, and hopefully everyone here gets a chance to meet you. All right, next. Okay, so we have our CPL month, MCPL monthly. Lovely cover of three young gentlemen reading a book of their choice. There's two items I want to mention here that I think are worth paying attention to. In Platte County at the Greenhouse Library Center, you had a young lady who donated her own personal collection to be on display in our exhibit cases. And the exhibit cases are something that maybe people would think are customary for libraries, but they really are what make Mid-Continent unique. And that there's a wealth of talent and experience in our communities, and we host these beautiful exhibits all throughout the system. This young lady loaned us her rubber duckies, and they're on display at Green Hills, and I encourage everyone to see it. And then as to demonstrate our kind of creative approach to engaging people around reading, at the Lee Summit branch, they do walking book clubs. Maybe one day we'll have a walking board meeting. We'll see what we get from that. But I will say the experience of walking and talking just brings something out of people. And hats off to the staff at the Lee Summit branch for thinking of this. It's a great way to get exercise, but also really kind of get you seeing life from a different perspective. So those are the two things I wanted to highlight from the monthly report to the board. But now I have someone here who I want everyone to meet and learn a little bit from. I'm going to give you a little context here. So I go to Chicago, it's ALA annual, and I'm invited to the Newbery Caldecott Awards, which, if you don't know, is like the Oscars of the library world, right? And the award itself is to acknowledge the illustrators of children's books. And I'm sitting at the table, and next to me is Naftali. I did not know at the time. And she goes, oh, hi, you're the director of the library. And I'm like, well, who are you and where do you work? And she goes, I work at Mid-Continent Public Library. So a little bit of egg on my face there, but no one told me. But nonetheless, I heard from a colleague in Cleveland, Naftali is just wonderful. I think you both served on, was it
We served on the Caldecott together.
Caldecott together, right? Miss Anisha Jeffries and Naftali. Yeah, there's some stories there. We won't go into it. But nonetheless, they served on the Caldecott committee, and it's just, they did great work there. And Naftali works at the Lone Jack branch. And I asked her to come here and say a few words about the work she does in engaging the community at her branch.
Hi, my name is Naftali Ferris, and I am the branch manager for our Lone Jack branch. Lone Jack is not as far out as everyone thinks, I swear. We're only 12 minutes from East Lee Summit. Additionally, I know we're not super famous, but supposedly the Lone Jack battle is where Rooster Coburn from True Grit lost his eye. Ooh. So there's your fun fact for the day. But I was just going to tell you a little bit about our branch and our community, and to give you a sense of our size, our scope. We circulate about a third as much as Excelsior Springs, about the same as Clay Como, and as much as Weston, Dearborn, Edgerton, and Camden Point combined. So while we may appear quite small, we are mighty. For every one visitor who comes into the branch, we circulate more than 4 items. That is the second best per visit circulation in the system. We have a tremendous number of homeschool families that come to us, people on the outliers of Lee Summit who still want a rural feel to their branch. And frankly, a good number of people from Cass, Lafayette, and Johnson counties who take full advantage of the reciprocal deals available to them. We've been very fortunate in our branch to do a lot of grant work and to do a lot of projects to engage the community. We did an intergenerational book group at the Historical Society, and we were able to do that through an ALA grant. Our biggest grant project, one we've done roughly over the last 6 years, was called Lone Jack Reads. We provided every 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader in the Lone Jack School District with at least 10 books of their own to add to their home libraries, because we know that owning as few as 5 books, having as few as 5 books in your home can mean the difference between academic success and failure. So we wanted to give Lone Jack students who don't, frankly, have a good deal of access to resources the best chance possible. Especially considering that reading scores in Lone Jack are not great. We have the 2nd lowest set of reading scores in the service area. And so we try to find as many ways possible to support those who are working in literacy in Eastern Jackson County. So that grant for Lone Jack Reads came through a number of sources, a hodgepodge of people, Truman Heartland, Royals. At one point it was funded by the state library. We enjoyed asking people to help us with that project. And we have ideas for the future. We like to call ourselves the agricultural destination branch, since our town has a strong agricultural focus. We have a lot of farmers, a lot of people who are engaged with farm life. And so one of the projects we're working towards currently is getting a sensory garden moving forward, so that we can bring in some programming and hopefully reach out to our community partners like Powell Gardens. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add one more. When I visited there recently, the biggest news was Casey's opened.
Yes, Casey's is finally open. It's on our side of the bridge too. This is very important.
And that's where you get your pizza.
Yeah, well, we actually have 2 pizza places now. Simple Silence and Casey's. Just the idea. Lone Jack, it's on the up and comer.
Additional comment, Casey's has really good coffee.
Yes, it does.
I will say one of my horseshoers lives out there and is a frequent visitor of your branch, and so I hear nothing but wonderful things.
Yeah.
Great job. One of the great benefits of our community and being the size we are is the depth of relationship we are able to have with our patrons. And I know all of the staff appreciate that as much as I hope the patrons do.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that the new renovations, you have enough room for the tutors and the jigsaw puzzle people.
So we still only have 4 tables.
I know.
We didn't grow any with the renovation, but yes, we try to negotiate between the tutors and the puzzlers.
Yeah, thank you for all your great service. Thank you for your comments. You had me at True Grit, so.
I debated about that over there.
I'll be out to see you shortly.
Excellent.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us that context. When we think about libraries, it's easy to focus on the real shiny ones that are in densely populated areas, but the work that's done at Lone Jack, Oak Grove, or even our Northern Platte libraries is so meaningful. And without them, I don't think the communities would be the same. So definitely, thank you for your service. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So,
all right. So We have an annual report to present to you. And before we talk about what's inside, we have to talk about the people that made this report possible. I came to the library in early January. Before me was our interim director, Susan Wright. So much of what you see in this report was a result of her hard work in our period of transition. And I just want to say thank you for Susan for all the work that you've done in getting us there. And I also want to thank the marketing team for enduring my critique of the design and layout of this report. And entertaining me because I was so upset about my headshot. We had to go and redo it. So behind me is the lovely North Oak branch. And I think this one looks a little bit better than what I had before. But with us is Jim Staley, and he's going to give us a high-level overview of what's in this report. Jim, I'm going to turn it right over to you.
And real quick, I think also they mentioned the agricultural destination branch. And one of my favorite things about the Lone Jack branch is that they have an antenna on top of the branch that allows farmers in the area to be able to coordinate their GPS, their combines and tractors to help them with farming. So anyways, that's not about the annual report, but anyway, so, this is one of those things that's statutorily obligated of the library to do. But of course, if we're going to do it, we want to make sure it communicates with you, our public. We use this thing throughout the year to introduce people to the library system. And then we also like to talk about some of the accomplishments through the year. So as you will often see, you get a message from our leadership team, both from Aaron and from Ron. So I'm not going to obviously read all of this, go through, but I'll hit a couple of highlights. One of the things we like to highlight within this is community partnerships. So there's a couple here kind of spread out. We try to make sure we hit things around the system as well. So this is a partnership that our North Platte branches did with their school district. They had kids in all summer long at various age groups and ended up with really great participation in the summer reading program via the school district. The next page talks about community needs assessments. We're going to be probably talking about that at some future meeting. We have finished these needs assessments. We did 20 public meetings. And we're able to talk with focus groups from around the district about what needs they see in their community. And I would be remiss not to mention the library value calculator next to that that shows at like bare minimum what we can calculate is taxpayers in this district get about $3.32 of service for every dollar they put into this library district. And that's really good value, we think. So back to the next page, partnership highlights. This is just, we had a really nice letter from Kathy Rose, the mayor of Riverside, on the partnership she has with the library. And then the next page, talking about the capital improvements. Interestingly, the only project that was finished in that fiscal year was Green Hills and the Culinary Center. Next year we'll have, a much more complicated page with multiple projects in it. But as we go on, the Culinary Center here, that program is up and running. You can read about the early days of it in here. Cody, go to the next one. Okay, this is one of the ones that, people are always most interested in. This kind of shows the vitality of the library system. Every now and again, somebody says, do people still use the library? Of course they do. 2.3 million people walked through our doors last year. I think one of the most interesting parts of this page is that box, that long rectangle in the middle that breaks it down on a daily basis. So the fact that you have 6,500 library visits a day, and you can go on down and see. So 14,000, over 14,000 items checked out every single day in this library district. So moving along, the summer library program, we talk about that success. Kate was here last month, I guess in July, talking about it. It might be back, I don't know, soon to talk about the final results. This will be last year's summer reading program. You can see it says 2022, but still,
when you look at that and you see, 16,000 kids participating in the library district, reading throughout the summer.
Sorry, I wasn't even touching it. My watch said it didn't get that.
Yeah, I was like, all right, you like me to say that again?
I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else has a
I'm actually kind of surprised that mine didn't answer yours.
It's like a
Yeah.
daily occurrence that just
Yeah.
sucks. At least yours says it too.
All right, so next to that, on the next page, we've got an article. Everybody, it's worth reading this one really. It's about our community resource coordinators. Those are a couple of folks specifically designated in our system to help people find local resources in areas where sometimes those resources are hard to find and people really need them. So definitely check that one out. The next page, we've kind of been over this. This is the statutorily required part here where we talk about our finances. But our auditor did a good job going over all those numbers earlier. And then the last 3 pages are dedicated to Diana and all her fine work. So about our charitable impact, where some of those dollars go. And the very last page highlights a couple of our donors, Brad and Carla Hughes, who are often here, incidentally. I kind of hope they'd be here tonight, so they see themselves up on the screen. But fabulous donors of ours, and we were happy to be able to highlight them in the annual report. I would be remiss not to specifically say that Amber Knoll, our graphic designer, did great work on this. She does lots of revisions. She goes back and anyway, she just is fantastic work, but the whole marketing department really does great work and we appreciate everything. Any questions about this report?
I like the layout. It's simple and it's very clear to read. And I especially enjoy looking at where it says our digital circulation. I remember outside of our databases and stuff, I remember when that was like 0.
2010.
Yeah, 2010 was 0.
Not have digital act.
And to look at it at almost 4.5 million, that shows that we truly are a 24/7 library system.
Comment, Jim, great job. This is really high quality, first class for all your team and yeah, really, really good.
Thank you. All right.
Okay. So
What do we need?
We need a motion to accept that.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, I'll move.
Second.
okay.
All in favor? Chair Paul, we would do.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'll wait for the people online.
Okay.
Is there anyone still online?
This is Lori. This is Lori. I'm online. So I didn't hear the proposal. So we're voting on the annual report.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Aye.
Cody, how about Lori Munyon or Dr. Wilson?
Still not getting a response from Dr. Wilson. We also have Ron Thewis online as well.
How about Noelle Stepp? I think she had to drop off.
No, Noelle Stepp is no longer online.
Okay, motion carries.
So 7.2, I'm just going to read this. Vice President Michael Lazio entertained a motion to nominate a member of the board as the MCPL employee representative at the Loggers annual meeting and be the designated MCPL employer representative for the next 12 months.
No. Typo.
It's correct.
Sorry. We'll correct that.
I know I've been around for a while.
The board member, Jocelyn Tucker Burgo, was elected MCPL employer representative and an alternative. So if anybody has a nomination for an alternative, you can enter that.
Well, it's not an alternative, it's for an alternate.
Oh, alternate, excuse me.
Can you explain that exactly, Joycelyn, maybe a little bit about that?
Missouri Loggers is the library's retirement system. It's very well run, managed fund. Our employees' retirements are well taken care of. Annually, they're required to have an annual meeting in person. And it's going to be held October 26th and 27th. And it's held in St. Louis this time. It moves around the state. Each year, each employer elects an employer representative, and in the past it has been the board, a member of the board, and they also elect an employee representative. And they also sometimes will also designate an alternate if the first person can't go. The importance of this is it gives the library and other employees a voice in electing the leadership for this, and also getting an update and having a voice in how the funds are managed. Did I do good?
Yeah. They'll elect board members, whoever's up for election, whatever seats are being vacated on the loggers board. So all of the, having a board member from the library elected as well as a staff member is all governed by the statutes that govern loggers.
So no alternate nomination.
No, so I haven't been elected yet. This is a process.
Okay, well.
We'll cover that.
Yes, you are going to be. So we need a motion for Joycelyn Virgo to be elected as the MCPL employee representative.
This is Lori. I would make a motion that we would accept the Mike Lazio's recommendation for Joycelyn to be our representative for Mo Loggers.
Second?
I second the motion.
Okay.
Or does somebody else
second? Carrie, so
let's go on.
Okay, I'll just do it. We do
Yep.
it. Okay, I'll just do the number. Ms. Joycelyn Virgo.
Abstain. It's a little self-serving for me to vote for myself.
Mr. Gordon Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Marcy Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bob Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Michael Lazio.
Aye.
Ms. Lori Lamunian.
Aye.
Dr. Yumi Gandolfi.
Aye.
Ms. Noel Step. Ms. Rita Weiss. Aye. Dr. Susan Wilson. Ms. Michelle Wyckoff. Aye. Motion carried.
Congratulations, Joycelyn.
It's a good conference. They do a good job.
So do we need an alternate in case
Yeah, do we need
she can't? Shouldn't we have an alternate in case?
Let's do that some other day.
Yeah.
That
could be important.
Yeah, it can be.
I'm saying it doesn't require a vote.
We'll deal with that if she
Yeah.
disappears.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not volunteering, but Marcy wanted to. Marcy.
I've actually been.
Actually, Marcy, if you would like.
If you need me, I've been there before.
I'm with.
There you go.
I just want,
Yeah, great.
Okay.
I just didn't know if we had to vote on it, and something, we had an emergency.
Last year I was Michelle's alternate. You pointed out that I went, but.
Yeah, I think we're okay. We're fine.
Oh.
So, moving right along to Karen Mason for the announcements.
Okay, just quickly, we will be taking our show on the road, and I'll be speaking before the county commissions and the 3 counties that we serve. See, on September 25th, I'll be in Platte County. 10 a.m. September 27th at 10:30 a.m. I'll be in Jackson County. and September 28th in Clay. The times, dates, and locations are all in board docs, and I encourage anyone to come regardless of your county of origin. So I will be speaking basically about the annual report, giving a state of the library and to the commissioners who've made these wonderful people possible. So lastly, October 11th, the Public Library Association registration opens, and that's for the conference in 2024. And that's all I have to report. On here.
Is the board meeting in October and the 24th and the 17th?
Should be the same.
17.
Should be the 17th.
17.
Technology.
Calendar.
17.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
All right. Any trustees' comments? Anyone?
I was very pleased with the opening of the Green Valley Ranch. Wasn't able to get up to what's, it was just nice to be in that space, remembering when it was about the size of this room. Literally backed up on train tracks, and when I bring my kids, we kind of like force the library to go over their maximum limit. So it's really nice to see a new branch in that growing community and to get out of rental space. So that was really nice.
It is truly a beautiful branch.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any other comments? All right. We're going to go to closed session. So Cody.
Need a motion.
I'll read this. Approval of motion to enter closed session as permitted under RMSO 610.021 for the purpose of one, legal actions, causes of actions, or litigation involving a public governmental body, and any confidential privileged communications between a public governmental body or its representatives and attorneys.
Who said that?
I'll second.
Ms. Whitecall? Ms. Weeks?
Left.
Dr. Pandolfi?
Oh, we're voting.
Yes.
Session.
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry, thank you. Lazio?
Yes.
Mr. Munyon?
Yes.
Ms. Stepps? Dr. Wilson? Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Ms. Virgo?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Cody, if you'll do everything you need to do,